right. Well, hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. How's everybody doing out there? I need some energy from you all. Speaking of a webinar about energy. Yeah, there you go, Kelly. Awesome. Well, it's good to see you. If you're able to turn your cameras on, I'd love to see your faces. It's so much more energizing to teach to faces versus dark screens. And I'm curious, what just have we been in a webinar before together? So I see some of you I recognize from class. And then I also see quite a few new faces. So tell me in the chat box if this is our first time together. I would just love to say hello and welcome you. So let me go ahead and introduce myself for those of you that it is new. And then we're going to jump in quickly to 4 tips to help you with your energy. So how many of us need more energy? I was laughing because I'm teaching this webinar, and earlier today I was like, I need a nap. And I was like, oh yeah, we're teaching a webinar on energy. So I'm right there with you. I need to employ these tactics as well. And when I do notice a difference in my energy specific around lead gen. So let me start off introducing myself. There's quite a few of you that are new. So let me just say who I am and why I'm teaching this webinar. But my name's Anna Krueger. I used to be a high school teacher. I said I would never do business or sales, and here we are doing business and sales. And when I first got into sales, I was actually pretty terrible at it. I almost got fired from my first team. Can anybody relate? You don't have to reveal yourself if you don't want to. But I almost got let go from my first team for low performance. And that really set me out to learn language patterns, how to talk to people. And the biggest adjustment for me was adjusting my mindset about the role. And that was in 2006. Since 2006, I've trained over 40,000 salespeople, and I've been doing inside sales and lead generation ever since, and I actually love it. So I can truly say that these tips work because I've seen them work in my own life. So I'm going to share with you today 4 of the top tips that I've seen to help increase energy. And then at the end of this webinar, I will open it up. If anybody else has something you want to share that I did not bring up, I'd love to hear from you. And then we'll also talk about where can you get more trainings like this one, because we do have classes and things that cover topics like this on a regular basis. So let's go ahead and jump in. Can you all hear me okay first? Okay, good. I have my windows open, and of course, all day it's been quiet, and my neighbor just started mowing the lawn. So if it gets too loud, let me know, and I will go shut the window. All right, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is lead generation. And really, truly, the first thing when it comes to lead generation is how we think about lead generation. So let me ask you, first of all, why do you lead generate? Think personally. I think we all know why we lead generate business-wise, right? But personally, what's the ripple effect? When you lead generate, what does that do for you as an individual? And you can unmute yourself or use the chat box. Kelly says to be a resource for my community. I love that. Yes.
It's inspiring. It makes you want to do better. When you help one person, it's sort of like the domino effect. You want to help more.
Yeah. Have you all found that? I actually was doing lead generation yesterday, and I'm going to be very transparent with you today. Yesterday, wasn't in the mood to do lead generation. And yes, I teach classes about lead gen. And I got on the call with 3 people. And by the 3rd person, my energy was significantly higher. We had engaging conversation, and I wanted to keep going. But I had to get into the activity to get to that place. So Melinda, I really appreciate you sharing that with that. Alan says to build relationships. We also have to let them know they're not alone, to grow our database. It increases and floods my pipeline. I love this answer, not because it's so personal. And this is what I want you guys to think about. Yen typed in to be able to give more to my church. And that's what I'm wondering. What does this do for you personally? Like, what happens in your actual real personal life when you increase your income because you've been lead generating? Let's talk about that for just a minute. Who's willing to share?
I'm a little bit more comfortable, in my day-to-day life, knowing that my expenses are met.
Yeah. I know what it's like to not have money. Anybody else here relate to that? Early on in real estate, I had to go to my church and ask for help with some medical bills because I didn't have money. And that was a terrible feeling. And that's there for when you need it, but I didn't want to need it. I wanted to be generous, not asking for money, right? So I know what that feels like, and lead generation can fix that. Yeah. Alyssa says my cat gets even more spoiled than before. More experiences for my family, vacation. Victoria, I think you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just relating. That's
Oh,
all.
you're good. Hey, relate away. No problem. Saving up for college can actually pay for my dreams. Yeah. Remember I said I went to church to ask for some money. This was in 2014. I was new in, I was about a year into real estate. So like I said, I was struggling at first. I just went to Africa for 3 weeks, left work, had amazing experiences. I paid to have a guide take us all through Africa. We went into 3 countries. That was absolutely zero stress. And you know where that came from? Lead generation. So I think sometimes we forget that lead generation is actually the thing that funds all the other things, right? And it's like we can know it here, but sometimes it doesn't feel that way when we go to actually do our calls, at least for me. So I want to show you real quick an example calendar. And this came from someone that I coach. And I just copied it because I thought it was such a good example. But see where it says green, or where the green is? Can you all see my screen hopefully right now? The green for this person, they wanted to be the CEO of their own company someday. So instead of calling it lead generation, I don't know about you all, but lead generation is like the most boring terminology on the planet for lead generation. So in their calendar, they called it CEO groundwork because they wanted to see, first of all, it's green. Green means money. Second, that's what they wanted. For them, the goal of becoming a CEO was very, very high. So to see time blocked in the calendar labeled their goal was incredibly motivating. For me, one of my goals this year is to buy a rental property and go back to Africa. My goal is to sail on a dhow. Anybody know what a dhow is? I've never heard of it. It's like an old-timey sailboat. And we want to actually sail the slave trade route and instead give back on that route, like go do humanitarian work. That's going to cost a lot of money. So for me, in my calendar, where it has, lead generation, instead, it's got sail on a dhow, buy a rental property. Because then when I see that in my calendar, I'm immediately reminding myself, why am I doing this activity? What is this for? So I really encourage all of you, not now because you'll get distracted, but as soon as this webinar is over, go into your calendar and rename your lead generation time. I hope you have it in your calendar. Rename it whatever it's going to do for you. That is going to immediately increase your energy. So it could be paying off a mortgage, paying for vacations. I mean, it could be any of that. Yeah. Yes. And I like the comment that just came in. When feelings take over, it's easy to forget why we're lead generating. Isn't that true? It's just real. Let's just be real here. I mean, that, especially when it's something you do on a regular basis, it can start to feel boring. It can start to feel repetitive. It can start to feel hard. And I'd rather go do something else. And we have to remember why we're doing what we're doing. So that's tip number 1, is adjust your calendar, and actually in your calendar, turn lead generation a color that means something to you, probably green, if you're not sure, green because it's money. And then call it whatever you want to call it that will tie it back to your motivation. Okay. What do you guys think of tip number 1? Give me a thumbs up if you're feeling it. Okay. Awesome. Okay. The next thing that we recommend, and this is one of the best hacks. I have seen this work with clients who are just really discouraged, and very quickly, meaning by the very next coaching call, they will report an increase in production because of the tip I'm about to give you. So this is one of my favorite hacks. It works immediately. It could work for you even today. So somebody tell me a little bit about dopamine. I'm not looking for a scientific definition. Just what is dopamine? Who knows?
Isn't it the hormone that makes us feel good?
Yes, exactly. It's the hormone that
Happy.
makes you feel good. Yeah, it makes you feel happy. It's the happy hormone. Here's something though that I didn't know until I did a deeper study into dopamine. So write this down in your notes. I hope you're taking notes. Dopamine does make you feel happy, but a lot of people kind of stop there. It also is proven to increase your motivation and to make you less likely to give up. That's interesting. Most people just call it happy, and that's true. But it's also increases your actual motivation, and you are less likely to give up when dopamine is flowing through your system. So one of the ways that you get dopamine is to do something that you said you would do. How many times, in fact, this was me earlier today. I did meal prep and my kitchen was overflowing with dishes and pots and pans, and it was just overwhelming to me. And I decided I'm allowed to eat lunch when I finish doing my dishes. So I just did my dishes. And what I can tell you is once I got into the activity of doing my dishes, I just started to feel better about doing the dishes. Right? You go to the gym, you feel better when you leave the gym. How many of you have not wanted to go to the gym and then you leave the gym feeling like, you know, a superhero because you went to the gym? That's physical. It's dopamine. So here's the thing. Some of you on this call are inside sales agents. Some of you are agents. For an inside sales agent, a very common goal is 40 contacts in a day. For an agent, it might be 15 to 20. It's going to just depend on your personal income goals, really. But let me ask you a question. If my goal is to talk to 40 people in a day, when am I going to get dopamine? At the end of the day, when I'm leaving work, right? That doesn't really make sense. So why not, and here's the trick, why not make either hourly goals or before lunch, after lunch goals? So instead of it being, if you're an inside sales agent, instead of it being 40 calls a day, what if it was excuse me, it's not calls, it's contacts. So instead of it being 40 contacts a day, what if instead it was 7 contacts an hour for 6 hours? So between 9 and 10, I just need to have 7 people pick up the phone. And then between 10 and 11, I just need 7 more people to pick up the phone. And now I'm going to have 6 opportunities for a dopamine release instead of 1 at the very end of the day. It's a pretty cool hack, right? The other thing you could do, some of you are not that detailed. That would be me. I'm not an hourly goal person. Most of my clients actually are hourly goals. So maybe I'm a weird one. I like before lunch, after lunch goals. And where this came from is I was stressing because I needed 2 appointments every day and I wasn't hitting it. And my boss looked at me. I remember he was holding a cup of coffee and he kind of leaned on my door and he's like, Anna, just set 1 appointment and then go to lunch and then come back and set another appointment and then go home. And something about him simplifying it like that just did something in my brain. And I just started telling myself, I'll go to lunch once I set an appointment. And I'd really like to go to lunch by noon. So let's get an appointment. And I started setting appointments before lunchtime. And then I would set one before I went home. And it just simplified the day for me. So whatever your goal is, we have different roles represented on the call today, whether it be setting appointments, whether it be writing a contract, maybe it's contacts, how many contacts you want. But I strongly urge you to either break it down into hourly goals or before lunch, after lunch goals, one of the two. And what I can tell you from people in our coaching program, we have a coaching program called Mega Lead Conversion. That's actually where this content is coming from right now. We teach this in that class. Students will report the following week that they had more appointments, their energy was higher. I'll start getting emails saying my production is going up. And all I did was make smaller goals throughout the day. That's it. So I want to hear from you. Are you going to be an hourly goal person or a before lunch, after lunch person? Hourly?
Hourly.
Yeah. A before,
I like
after.
before and after lunch. I'm food.
Yeah. Are we food motivated? Yeah. It looks like actually more people in this group are before lunch, after lunch. Yeah. And here's the thing. Try the one that you just picked and see how it works for you. And you should notice an increase in energy. This is proven to work. It is scientific. If you do not notice an increase in your energy, I would say give it 3 to 4 days. If you're not noticing an increase in your energy, switch to the opposite of what you just chose and see if that works a little bit better for you. But I do have a really cool success story for you. I was coaching an inside sales agent whose goal was 40 contacts a day. He was struggling to hit 30. I mean, seriously struggling. And remember, his full-time role is lead generation all day. So in 8 hours, he was struggling to hit 30 contacts. We implemented this strategy. The next week, he hit 50. And I asked him, I was like, how was that for you at 50? That's 10 above what you needed. He was like, it just wasn't that hard. I don't know why this was hard to me before. So as we continued coaching, his goal was still 40. And he personally changed his goal to 50 Because he's like, I'm able to hit 50. It's not that hard. And every week that gives me 25 extra contacts. That adds up to closings. So I'm just going to keep it at 50. And the thing that we changed was just having these hourly goals. That's what he chose. So that is one of my favorite hacks for this one. All right. So we talked about changing the calendar to reflect the time actually being what you're working for. So for me, it's going back to Africa, buying a rental property. That's what's in the calendar. Then we have having small goals throughout the day. The next thing that I'm going to recommend to you is that you take breaks. How many of you, because of today's market, are feeling like I just don't have time for a break? I hear you. Yeah. And I'm sure there are scientific articles out there. I'm going to tell you what my observation has been. And there is science to back this up. But what I'm going to share with you today is more personal from coaching. But for me, I was behind goal. This was like 2008, probably. It was a long time ago. And my manager said, I am forcing you to take a 3-day weekend and you're not allowed to take your computer home. And I had that immediate like, but you don't understand. I'm behind goal. If anything, I should be working more, not less. And I just remember she said to me, you are burned out. You have got to take a break. And I ended up hitting goal right after the 3-day weekend. She forced me to take a break. So when I came back, I hit goal. So then as a MAPS coach, if I'm coaching someone one-on-one and I start to notice they're behind, I'm hearing them say they worked through lunch. I'm hearing them say that, they don't know the last time they took a vacation. I can't make anybody do anything, but we'll start talking about the value of taking some time off. And that could simply be take an hour for lunch and leave the office. But it could also look like take a 3-day weekend. Or if you're working 7 days right now, take an afternoon, right? Like start with a chunk that feels doable to you. And if you need someone to change your passwords, have them change your passwords. The client I'm thinking of right now, she had her sister change her passwords because she didn't trust herself to not work because she was so anxious about it. And right before she took the time off, she hit goal. And now she's to the point where we don't have to remind her, if you're feeling behind, take a break. She'll start to see if I'm getting behind, I need to take a break. And she'll take a break and it either happens right before the break or right after the break. One of the two, she ends up hitting goal. And this story is repeated over and over and over. So let's just talk real quick about what a break could look like. So write down a couple ways that you could do this. One is definitely take a break in the middle of your lead generation, at least if you're lead generating for about 3 hours, which is what we recommend for agents and ISAs in the market we're in. In a normal market, 2 hours usually gets the job done. In today's market, 3 hours is what we're seeing. Take a 15-minute break in the middle and fully enjoy it. Don't feel bad about taking it. Fully enjoy a break. That also looks like taking a lunch break. And that not at your desk, leave the office, go drive around the block, take a walk, but do something to get you out of the office. Okay. The next thing is I recommend, this is a question my coach asked me. A lot of people get burned out and then they schedule the break and then you have another couple weeks or months till the vacation because you waited to schedule it until you were burned out. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Man, I need a break. Let me schedule one. And okay, now it's not till summer and I have 6 months to go. So what a lot of people do, or what my coach asked me, she said, how often do you need a break to prevent burnout? I'm going to ask that question again. How often do you need a break to prevent burnout? And for me, I realized I would like to have a half day on Fridays, assuming I hit my goal for the week. And that became a driving motivator. And as long as I hit my goal for the week, I would take a half day on Fridays. Non-negotiable was the 15-minute break and the lunch breaks. But I kind of figured if I'm taking a half day every Friday, that's going to give me a lot of time off during the month without even really taking a vacation. That should help me prevent burnout. I said workout. That should help me prevent burnout. And I found that to be true. And then for me, again, I need about 2 weeks of vacation the first half of the year and then again the second half of the year. And if I'm doing those two things, 2 weeks vacation, half day on Friday, and then the lunch breaks, and all that. I'm just not getting burned out. Generally speaking, we all have our days, right? But it's not like a continuous burned out kind of thing. Okay. All right. That's the third tip. So far we've got make your calendar say what lead generation does for you. We talked about creating shorter goals. We've also talked about taking breaks. And then the last thing that I want to tell you is create a visual goal. And there are two ways you can do that. Well, there's probably a lot of ways you can do this, but there are two ways I will recommend that you do this. I'm going to show you two. Can you all see this? This is a vision board that I did. Now, truthfully, I'm not really into vision boards like this. We did this as a team activity, so I made one. Now my vision board really just looks like pictures of what I want on the wall, just actual photographs. So one of my goals to go sailing, if you were at my house right now, you would see on the wall where I work a picture of a sailboat, just a photograph that I printed from online. So it doesn't have to be this fancy. This was a team activity. Now that I work more on my own as a coach, I have photographs. It could look like take your mortgage statement and black out what you owe and put a 0 if your goal is to pay off your mortgage. But get what you want visual so that it's in front of you. And the way that conversation happened in my head is, do I want to take off the goal of paying my mortgage off, or do I want to lead generate? But I can't not lead generate and still pay off my mortgage. So what I'm saying is the visual kind of forced me to realize I have to pick one. So it's either going to be lead generate, or I'm going to have to take off the goal to pay off my mortgage early. I've got to pick one. And so having it visual really helps. So know yourself. Some of you really enjoy the vision boards. I think a lot of people enjoy this. I'm just not so into it. So for me, it's more photographs printed off from just online of what I like. Also, if you're on a team, this is what I did for a team, and you can see it's legit. I spilled water on it years ago. This is the one I actually used. But if people attempted to interrupt me during lead generation, we're all in one big room. So I didn't have a door I could shut to say, leave me alone, I'm lead generating, right? But I had to somehow still protect my lead generation. So what I did as a team member, I went to the agents on my team and I said, what would it mean for you to have more closings each month? Because I understood lead generation will help all of us have more closings. And I wrote their goals on the bottom of this page. So it's hard to read because I spilled the water on it. But one guy said, I want to plant churches. Someone else said, I want to buy a house. My favorite one, if you can read it, no rice and beans for dinner. Can y'all see that? One of the agents on our team, this is a cool story. He said, my wife and I are eating rice and beans for dinner. We're newlyweds and I just want to go out to a steak dinner. I'll make bigger goals later, but right now I just want to quit eating rice and beans. That's what lead generation would do for me. When I'm on the phone with a lead and they're kind of like, I don't know, I would think to myself, Michael has got to go out to a steak dinner. And it pushed me through to stay on the phone and work through those objections. What I want to tell you, the guy who wrote no rice and beans for dinner, he closed 75 houses his first year. 75 houses his first year. So at the beginning of the year, he just wanted to eat a steak dinner. By the end of the year, I don't know if it was right at the end of the year, but he bought a second property as an income property and he sold 75 houses. First year in real estate. That's what lead generation will do for you. The last thing, and then I'll tell you where you can find more like this. This is going to be real fancy. Get excited, okay? The next thing, visual. So these are really 3 visual ideas. I had a client whose goal was to set 12 appointments a week. She was an inside sales agent. And she could not seem to get past 10, no matter what she did. So I told her, take a piece of paper and on the wall in front of you, do a countdown. And this one has 10 on it, but 10, 9, 8, 7. And whenever you set an appointment, write the last name of the person over the number. So if you look here, number 10 now has the name Smith over it. So hers had 12 because her goal was to set 12 appointments. Just by getting this visual, she went from, I can't break 10, I'm stuck at 10, I'm stuck at 10. She set 15 the week that she put this up on the wall. And I asked her, I was like, well, what did you do different? And because I almost couldn't believe that it was just this. And she said, Anna, literally the only thing I did different was I had it up on the wall in front of me And I became very motivated to get all of the numbers scratched off by the end of the week. One thing I will tell you is do this week by week. So if you're an agent and maybe your goal is to set 2, your goal is going to be different. If you're a single agent, if you're an agent on a team, if you're an ISA, we're all going to have different goals. But whatever your goal is, put it visual on the wall in front of you. And I have seen it. I have seen it make a difference in people's production. So when I say visual, it could be all of these. Do a countdown, write down your teammates' goals, get a vision board of whatever's important to you, whatever that is, get it up in front of you. So to recap, and then I'll tell you where to get more like this, and then I'll open it up to if anybody has something to share. Change your calendar to match your goals. So put your actual goals financially into your calendar where lead generation goes. Create small goals so you get dopamine hits throughout the day. Take breaks. And then lastly, make your goals visual. Those are the 4 main things. Okay. You do that. You do one of those things, you'll see an increase in your energy. Imagine if you did all of those things, you will see an increase in your energy. And then Melinda said something that I didn't mention, but I want to highlight it. Part of it is just get into the activities. How many of you have not wanted to lead generate and you get about 5 calls in and suddenly you're like, okay, I got this. Like now I'm in the activity. I'm in the groove now. So sometimes you just have to do it. You just have to get started. So how many of you think you would make more money because of today's training? Because you're going to be more focused on lead gen, probably doing more of what you're supposed to be doing. So here's what I want to share with you. We have a class starting in 2 weeks. It's actually less than 2 weeks. It's going to start Wednesday, 2 weeks from yesterday. It's called Mega Lead Conversion. Some of you I see are in that class. So good to see you. Or your former alumni. Yes. Hey, Georgia. And so in that class, we teach more things like this. We have a whole hour just on mindset, actually, with a lot more tips than what I just gave you. But we also teach you the language of relationship-based sales. So I really believe the best salespeople think of themselves like coaches. The job of a coach is to listen to someone's story and then help them achieve whatever their goal is. And a lot of salespeople, if I can just be honest about it, are obnoxious. Can we just agree? Like a lot of salespeople are obnoxious because it's salesy and it's all about them. This class teaches you how to be relational and make it about the client. And so one of the students just reported to me, well, this was a couple of weeks ago, but he was 2 weeks into the class. And he said, I have a family to feed and I had 0 listings and I had 0 listings for months. I'm anxious about money. 2 weeks into the class, he told me I have 3 signed listings and 2 of them are about to go live. And he was only 2 weeks into the class. Another student told me that in 2 weeks, there's something about the 2 weeks, he saw his set to held ratio go from 40% up close to 80%. It was between 70 and 80. So he doubled, he's setting appointments. He just doubled how many of them were actually showing up. Guys, just to be very straight with you, in today's market, you cannot afford to not be working on your skill. In 2020 and different things like that, you could, with just some general people skill, get a house sold because it was the market. The market was crazy back then. Now you have got to have skill. And I know a lot of you are tired. We have over 400 people registered for this webinar about how to have more energy for lead generation. You're tired. What will help you not have to talk to as many people is your skill. So if you're still going to have to work harder than in 2020, right? But as your skill goes up, the hustle can go down, because you're just going to convert more for your efforts. So I want to show you real quick where you can get the class. So you just type in megaleadconversion.com and it will bring you right to this right here. It'll bring you to this page, megaleadconversion.com. It's $199 a month for 6 months. So you don't have to pay it all at once. It's just $199 a month for 6 months. Guys, in total, it's just under $1,200 over the course of 6 months. Again, you don't pay that all at once. The average commission right now in the US is around $10,000. Do you think you could get at least one closing because of the class, right? Like the ROI on it is ridiculous. So megaleadconversion.com is where you would go to find that class. You'll hit sign up. When you hit sign up, you'll see all the dates of the program. And you'll see all of the information to sign up. You do not have to be Keller Williams to take the class. So if you're not KW, that's fine. You can hit no. And if you're not Keller Williams, down here where it asks for an ID, just put NA. Okay. But you do not have to be Keller Williams to take this program. So megaleadconversion.com. Claudio, I see you asking about summarizing the tips. We're going to send out a recording of the class. We're going to send out a recording of the class to everyone who registered. Good. All right. Who has questions either about the class or today's content? I can hang on for about 5 extra minutes. So who has questions either about the class Mega Lead Conversion or about this program or this class I just taught you today? There is a discount for alumni only. I will not share that code on today's webinar, but you can email me. And once MAPS confirms that you are an alumni, we'll let you know how to get a discount.
I have a comment.
Sure.
Allison and I have an incredible boss. This man is the most motivating person I've ever met in my life. He could teach. This is how good this guy is. And he, throughout the day, when we meet a goal or exceed a goal, he will congratulate us. And
Yes.
it hits that dopamine that
Yes.
you just bing, man, you just feel so good and recognized for your work effort. You know,
Yeah.
so we are very, very blessed to have that. I hope everybody has that.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think that's especially good if you're on a team, or I wanted to give things today that were totally within your control, not reliant on somebody else doing it for you to have energy, right? But here's the thing, if you're on a team, tell someone on your team, I need that encouragement. Or I work from home by myself. I talk to people all day, but I'm by myself physically throughout the day. And I have a friend named Cynthia, and we've made a rule. She's also a coach who works from home, that we're allowed to call each other and just share whatever amazing thing just happened. And we're never going to think the other person's being boastful, so that we can be excited for each other. So that's something else that you can do. Good. What other questions do we have? We're getting short on time. So what other questions do you have either about today's class or the actual program Mega Lead Conversion? Yeah, and Steve, and by the way, if it's a question about class, please email me here. I put my email into the chat box, but my fear is I'm going to get a bunch of questions that are one-off about today's topic, and you're all are going to ask the same thing, and it'll be 10 emails, where if you ask it here, I can just answer you. So if it's a question about like the code or something, yes, email me. But if it's a question about class content, you can ask it here. Yeah, I agree, Steve, a standing desk, very, very important. All right, anybody else? All right, well, we will email out a copy of today's webinar to everyone who registered. So if you joined late, don't worry, you'll get the end, or you'll get the full webinar through your email. So just watch out your email. And then November 8th is when the class starts. It sounds far away because it's November, but that's actually only 2 weeks away, which is a little crazy to me that November 8th is 2 weeks away. So go ahead and get registered so we can get your portal all set up. And then I really encourage you, implement at least one of the tips today, if not more. You will see an increase in your energy. And if you're not sure which tip to implement, I would recommend the one that's small goals. So either hourly goals or before lunch, after lunch goals. That'll give you a lot of energy. If you're only going to do one, that would be the one probably to do. Good. All right, guys. Well, hopefully I will see you in class. Oh, how long will you have the materials after the course? I think you're probably asking about the class Mega Lead Conversion. So it is a 6-month program, but you'll have access for 8 months. So we give you 2 extra months when the class is over. If you want to go back and watch something again, or maybe you were out and you missed it, you can have 2 months buffer to go back and watch those. I think that's the name of your question. Martin, I love it. Martin, what are you changing it to? I'm curious. He said he's changing the name of his lead gen. Time in the calendar. I want to know. I'll show you real quick too what the class looks like in the portal. I'm getting some private messages, and so I'll just show it. I'll just show this real quick. This is what the class looks like. This is a class I'm teaching now. And when you register, you will get an automatic invite to the portal, and then the portal will be fully up and running right before class starts. But you can see here each week we post whatever it is that we talked about. Like here we did a bonus session, here's tracking. So you click on it and join us live. That's the best way to take the class because then you can ask questions and you can interact. But you can also, come in here and here's the recording of the class. So if I hit play, the back of the tracker is there you go. There's the recording from that class right there. Here's all the downloads. So that's what the class looks like once you're actually in the program. Here's what it looks like. Yeah. And each week we load up. So when you start, it'll say week 1 and you'll see all of the downloads. And then within 24 hours, the recording will be posted right there. Yeah. megaleadconversion.com. You're welcome. Thank you guys for being here. It's really boring to teach a class if no one shows up. So thanks for being here, guys. All right. Well, I will see you all hopefully in class on November 8th. And be on a lookout for the recording from today's webinar coming to your email probably by tomorrow afternoon. It usually takes about 24 hours. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day.